Hi, hello everybody, I'm Justin, this is Koopa. Welcome to Koopa's Corner. Today we're going to be talking about WWE's premium live event, Backlash, this upcoming Saturday, May the 9th, out of Tampa Bay, Florida. There are 5 matches advertised for the card tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches advertised for the card. They could always add a 6, but they probably won't. 5 is pretty typical for most PLEs outside of WrestleMania. Maybe SummerSlam, rumor is SummerSlam's, going to be a little bit bigger. So let's jump in, talk about the match card. So this build has been interesting. Fallout from WrestleMania. They didn't really follow up too much on many of the WrestleMania feuds. WrestleMania typically is a kind of a closing to the feud anyway, right? It sort of serves as the final chapter. But this year's WrestleMania wasn't particularly spectacular, and Backlash seems to be following suit. I don't think there's anything here that seems really extraordinary. There's nothing that's like super exciting. It seems like it's going to be fine. It doesn't seem like it's going to be bad at all. I'm not trying to say that. It seems like it'll be fine. If nothing special, just fine. I think the card is probably going to open up with Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. This is an interesting one because this feud has clearly been going on for a long time. It was supposed to happen at WrestleMania, and both guys were injured for a little while. Seth Rollins obviously made a return late and jumped into a no-story feud with Gunther just to get both men on the card. Braun Breaker made his return at Mania to screw Seth Rollins. And now they are both kind of in a position where it feels a little late. It feels like they missed the mark not doing it at Mania, and obviously it's not their fault, but that's how it feels. It also feels like both guys are kind of set up in a position to not really want to take a loss, right? Seth Rollins, big return, takes a loss against Gunther. He takes another loss, he's going to keep falling down, and it's going to be hard for him if they do too much, right? I mean, it depends if this is going to be the end of the feud or not, but I think it probably would serve him best to not continue feuding with the Vision after this. Maybe take a little bit more time off, maybe move over to SmackDown, something to get away from this and to enter a feud where he can get a couple big wins under his belt, right? On the flip side, Braun Breaker, also coming back from a big return, clearly a star for the future, clearly somebody that they were interested in, and a win over Seth Rollins would be huge, and a loss would kind of halt his momentum and kind of halt him from taking that next step into main event spotlight. So while both of them can't really afford the loss, it would be much easier for Seth Rollins to recover if he's given a good story and a good feud after this than it would for Braun Breaker. It feels much more important for Braun Breaker to walk out of this with a big old W, looking extremely dominant. I think one thing to factor in is you've got Seth, you've got the Street Profits, and you've got Joe Hendry, whereas over here you've got Breaker, but then you've got Logan Paul and Austin Theory, and you're one man short. Could this be the return of Big Bronson Reed to even the numbers out? I think it could. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Big Bronson Reed made his debut, or not debut, but return to cause a distraction, to attack Joe Hendry at ringside, to attack the Street Profits at ringside, something like that, which distracted Seth Rollins enough, even if it looked like Seth Rollins was about to get the win. And then Braun Breaker, recovers during that distraction, hits that bouncy spear. Another possibility is that we haven't seen the last of Gunther's alignment with Paul Heyman. He comes back out to put Seth down again until such a time when, he can cash in that favor. He hasn't really been on TV since WrestleMania. There was hardly any follow-up to his retiring AJ Styles. Now there's been no follow-up to him beating Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Coming out of 2025, he had a ton of heat, a ton of momentum, and thus far in 2026, yeah, he had a big WrestleMania match, but he's not been involved in anything. So let's not rule out Gunther getting involved either. Whichever way it goes, whether it's clean, whether it's involvement, I don't see a reality where Seth gets the win. Braun Breaker just really can't afford the loss in a much more significant way than Seth Rollins. So I'm predicting Braun Breaker. Next up, Io Sky versus Asuka. This is another one that probably should have happened at WrestleMania. This story was actually pretty hot. It had a lot of things going for it. And the story was mostly focused around Asuka's abuse of Kairi Sane and Io having sympathy for her friend, trying to talk to her friend out of taking that abuse, trying to talk her friend into standing up for herself. And then Kairi got released. And now this feud really feels pointless. It feels like there's no story. It feels like the whole story was a waste of time. This match will be good. They're both talented performers. I like Io a lot more than I like Asuka, but both of them, even Asuka, even if I'm not the biggest fan, she's good. There's no denying that much. So this match will be good. That's not the issue. Right? The issue is the story here. It's too late. If you knew Kairi was gonna be fired, if you were considering firing her, you're the one who made that decision. If you're considering firing her, why didn't you pull the trigger on this match at WrestleMania when it would have meant a lot more? I don't know. That's just my opinion. I feel like this is kind of pointless. This is just kind of being done to keep both women around. It almost feels like this feud was a backup for WrestleMania, and then they didn't need it. No, it's fine. We'll just do it Backlash. And now it's too late. Kairi's gone. There's always the possibility that Kairi comes back. Maybe her being fired was false. Maybe they leaked it, to throw us off the scent. A little bait and switch. Maybe it was real and they decided to bring her back. Or, more likely, it was real. We won't see her again, at least for a while. She's going to go back to Japan. She's going to do whatever she's going to do. And Io and Asuka are going to have this match like Kairi was never a part of it. And then they're going to move on. Asuka hasn't really lived up to her perceived stardom recently. She's mostly been relegated to a tag team. Io is clearly a much bigger star, clearly a much bigger priority for Triple H and the creative team. And she needs the win here just to get a little bit momentum and to buy her some time until she's doing her next thing. So, predicting Io Sky. Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams. This one is interesting. They did feud at WrestleMania. This is the one kind of actual match that is Backlash from WrestleMania. Trick Williams took the United States Championship from Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn didn't have a very long reign. And they almost did a double turn. The audience just got behind Trick Williams, even though he was kind of the bad guy. And they turned on Sami Zayn for really no reason. Sami Zayn didn't do anything bad or anything wrong. Sami Zayn is a good, entertaining babyface. He's a good, entertaining heel. Perennially the underdog. He's clearly in this match to put Trick Williams over and give him a strong performance because they see Trick Williams as a pretty big star of the future. Meanwhile, Sami Zayn has been around for over a decade and has never won the world title. But he has always been sort of that gatekeeper, level star. Sometimes his star power exceeds the level that he's being used at, right? And we've seen that with other superstars as well. I think one thing for Sami Zayn is, I think he earned himself a lot more credit than this with his bloodline stuff. And since then, he's really not been utilized to his full potential. So I think Trick Williams is going to win. Trick Williams is my official prediction. He just won the United States Championship. He's not going to lose it right back to the man he took it from this quickly. But I'm rooting for Sami Zayn. I'm a big Sami Zayn fan. I don't understand why everybody turned on him. I'm not turning on him. I like Sami Zayn. I'd love to see Sami continue building momentum. Hopefully, I would like to see this story lead to him embracing his dark side, feuding with Cody Rhodes, taking the title. Right? So a loss here could actually really propel him forward. And I don't think that's a bad thing. All right, this next one is a fun one. It's the very nice, very evil Danhausen, along with his Mysteryhausen partner, against The Miz and Kit Wilson. And what makes this fun is I've got genuinely no idea who his Mysteryhausen partner could be. They haven't hinted at anything. There's speculation online. Some people are like, oh, it could be CM Punk. Danhausen has said Pepsi Phil is his favorite superstar, and rumor has it that CM Punk was really critical in getting Danhausen in the WWE in the first place. CM Punk has really not been on TV since WrestleMania. He doesn't have a story. He doesn't have anything else going on. And he'd be a really big star. He could pop the crowd. They've teased Stardust. I don't think Cody would ever dress up that way again. They've teased it. I've heard people speculating it could be one of the Mini-Hausens from the WrestleMania segment. It's a possibility. It could be a celebrity like Jelly Roll. He's feuded with The Miz before. Possibly, sure. It might just be a regular old superstar, just anybody on the roster. Royce Keys is somebody that he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That feels like they want him to be big, but they don't really know what to do with him. So slotting him in here to keep him on TV, get him a big win at a pay-per-view or a PLE, why not? Right? It wouldn't be the most exciting thing. He wouldn't exactly pop the crowd if he came out. But he could come in there, flatten The Miz, flatten Kit Wilson, get a big old W for him and Danhausen. Why not? The other option, I think a much more exciting option, would be a surprise legend. Again, but there's not really anybody that jumps out. But, a surprise legend would be really cool. Or maybe somebody who's been out injured for a long time, like Kevin Owens. Surprise Kevin Owens is back. Unlikely, but wouldn't it be cool if it was Big E? He could sit there on the apron and never even tag in. Yeah, something, I don't know. There are options. And it'll be really interesting to see which way they go. I'm not trying to get my hopes up one way or the other. I don't really, honestly, have any idea. I don't have any I'm not leaning one way or the other, or I think it's going to be this, or I think it's going to be that. I listed out some options. It could be none of the above. It could be completely random. I genuinely have no idea. And that's what makes this so intriguing to me. Because in the modern day of WWE, it's very, very hard for genuine mystery surprises to happen. Something is always spoiled online. Even if you try to avoid going online too much, you hear rumors, right? You hear people talking. People read, the dirt sheets and they think they know everything. And I'm just making my guesses based off of watching the product for such a very long time and studying the product for such a very long time. But I don't really look up spoilers too often. And this one is one that I haven't really heard a lot of consensus on. So, pretty exciting. Either way, I think it's pretty obvious. The very nice, very evil Danhausen and his partner Mysteryhausen are going to win here. And then it brings us to the main event. Your tribal chief, Roman Reigns, is up against Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu could win. It'd be interesting if he won. But I don't think he should win. I think Roman Reigns should win. The story here largely has been Jacob Fatu jumped from SmackDown to Raw instead of challenging Cody Rhodes on SmackDown. He jumped from SmackDown to Raw to initiate a challenge against Roman Reigns. He doesn't acknowledge him as the tribal chief. He wants a better life for his family. Roman Reigns, meanwhile, is his family and his tribal chief, and the one true tribal chief. And Jacob Fatu will have to acknowledge him. And I think that Roman should win for a couple of reasons. One, he just won the title back after a very long, significant absence at WrestleMania. It hasn't been that long. It'd be very quick to have a title change. And I also think the idea of Jacob Fatu serving in the bloodline, sort of replacing Solo, along with the Usos, sort of revisiting that, but with a different flavor, would be great. I think it'd be really compelling storytelling until such a time when Jacob Fatu gets sick of being told what to do, gets sick of doing Roman's bidding, and lashes out the same way that, Jey Uso once did. And then you revisit this feud then, and then you crown Jacob Fatu then. Maybe it's a year from now, or, maybe a little less than a year at WrestleMania. Either way, you start building that story now. Very, very intriguing for me, personally. I was a fan of the Bloodline saga. I thought it was great. So I'm excited to see where this goes either way. I think this is the most compelling match on the card. And it's the main event, so it should be. The main event isn't always. But this time I think it is. So those are the matches, guys. That's what I think about them. Let me know in the comments who you think Danhausen's Mysteryhausen partner is going to be. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.